Welcome to another episode of Steal a Moment Podcast with me, Michael Lebois. Today's episode is featuring Andrew Whiteman of the band ANTISAINT, formerly known as Red Tide Rising. Andrew and I have been best friends for the better part of 7 years, and it's been really fun to watch the band grow and change as he and I were together in that project for about 4.5 years. It's been a pleasure to see him grow and change with this project as they get set to start a new era, something that has been really fun to see Andrew, Matt, and drummer Glenn grow as a unit over the last couple of years and see them really progress overall. I'm recording this at about 6:30 in the morning on Thursday, as we had to change up some of the schedules, so the setup's a little messy today. But that's what happens when you do this on yourself, for yourself and on your own. So you get to do some early morning recordings, and sometimes you don't always get to do the set the way you want. But Andrew and I talk about a lot of things: the state of music as it stands right now, the world of the NHL before the last series, which ended for the Colorado Avalanche yesterday, as well as, just reminiscing about some memories of touring and the work ethic that goes into being a touring musician. So if you guys wouldn't mind, Andrew and I would like to steal a moment. Oh shit, man. Well, it's not like a formal interview. It's not anything special. Literally just.
I'm not a professional. What?
Yeah, right. It's weird. I'm just shooting the shit because it's fun to do that with friends and people that I want to talk to more often than not. But just throw out questions as we talk about whatever, man. It doesn't matter to me.
I must say before, I'm sure you're going to use this anyways, the freaking Marvel poster in the background.
Yeah, blame the beautiful one, the more attractive of the group of us. This is her apartment, so.
That's the nerdiness, sir. Junk behind me.
Oh shit! You just got a bunch of drum kit. So, did you guys record the session that you guys are putting out on the 9th?
Yep, I just finished mixing it today. Sounding good.
Nice. Did you put a bunch of the new stuff on there, or are you doing like the other side and cold on there, or did you put a bunch of new stuff?
Let's see if I remember the set in order. Let's see, other side, Suffocate, Mad World Sobs, and Year, which is a new song.
Sweet.
There's only one true new song, but I figure that's a good mix of stuff.
And I mean, for those who don't know that the history between Andrew and I was in Red Tide Rising for what, like 4.5 years, something like that.
Pretty close. Man, a couple days ago was the anniversary of that first Seven Dust show.
Yeah, in Blono.
Glenn.
Yeah, first show with Glenn. That was amazing.
Yep.
That was a killer night. You had some massive tech issues until like right before we went on stage.
As we normally do.
Yeah. My favorite memory of that.
Downhill right away.
Yeah. My favorite memory of that was, I actually think, also on that Seven Dust tour. No. Yeah. On the Seven Dust tour, where we didn't even get a chance to change because Minnesota had opened the doors. Mill City Knights had opened the doors before we were even done setting up.
On that, I think, yeah, I was still in shorts. I was mad about that. Hell, their Cat 5 cable that was provided in the venue to go from our stage box to the board was too long, so it wouldn't work. Even though it was pre-run, it would not register. The board would never see the box, so we had to run RCAT 5 through the already existing crowd because doors had already opened. And I think I just said, fuck it, let's just start playing. Like, let's go.
Yeah, and I think that's the day I vowed to never wear my Mega Man shirt pre-show, because that's the second time I had to wear it on stage because of issues like that.
Wear that shirt, Mike. Bad things happen when that shirt is on.
No, it's not a performance shirt anymore. So you guys are going through a shift in the era, name change and everything. You wanna talk a little bit about that? This will be airing after you guys have announced it. So
yeah, now giving up the name. It's about time. I mean, there's always been confusion with the band Red Sun Rising and us. You know that just from touring. A lot of people at the merch, oh, I love your song. I listen to it all the time. Oh, yeah, what's that? Oh, you know, the other side. Oh, yeah, how's it go? And they'd sing the Red Sun version. Like, okay. Well,
no,
that's dog. So just, between that, a couple other things going on, I felt right to, the time has never been better to make a change. But unfortunately, not being able to tour and go promote things, it makes sense to do it now. So I'm gonna call it Anti-Saint and roll with it, and that's a name that I can definitely identify with. Not necessarily for the reasons that one would think, but Chevelle's always been a big influence on me and a band that I love, and I think it works for our identity.
I concur. I think the name change is perfect. I was privy to it a little early, which was kind of nice. I didn't tell anybody. Still haven't told anybody. Not going to tell anybody because that's the rule that I have. But it's one of those things that, like, it fits well with the sound and the direction you guys are moving towards. And I'm definitely excited to hear how the new stuff comes out with the new name and how people approach it. It sounds like you guys have gotten a pretty good response about the name change already, at least on the social media platforms that I've seen.
Yeah, definitely. There's only Shane has objected to it and set him straight.
So you guys have some big news coming forward. Is there anything you can announce now that is besides the name change? Can you say anything else?
Well, just the two singles that we had intended to release prior to making the decision to change the name, those are still going to be coming out very soon here. Everything else is still tightly under wrap, unfortunately. Break any rules or fuck myself with.
Damn it! I was like, yes, I get the exclusive, but no, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
A long time coming on this thing, believe me.
Yeah, that's been one of the other things too that I've been really impressed with is, it's essentially you, Matt, and Glenn right now doing all of the work for this new project with help from Jeff Cannon, of course, one of the best engineers I know out there. What should Red Tide and now Anti-Saint fans be looking forward to with this new sound?
There's a big jump in maturity. There's definitely a more defined direction in the sound that we're going for, where I'll be the first to admit our previous records were kind of all over the place. The genre or the subgenre that we were trying to go for, or just, like, oh, I want to have a song that feels like this and this, it was kind of just all over the place. This is definitely more narrowed down. It still has its moments because I like doing that as a band. I think it's fun to throw people off every once in a while with a song that's completely, out of left field or something. But definitely more narrowed. Definitely Matthew's vocals are amazing. He's matured massively in the last year. He's had some killer lessons to just help his vocal career and path continue to develop. Just very excited about that. And obviously, Glenn's a fucking beast. So that in itself led to just a massive change.
Yeah, I can attest to the growth of the band in general just by being friends with you guys and getting the chance to catch up with you and listen to a lot of the shit that you guys have been working on. I will say
there's an element of massive maturity and huge growth from what we wrote with voices and now to what's coming out in the near future. I'm lucky to have been able to catch and listen to some of these. They've performed them live for a couple of Toys for Tots shows, and the growth even between last year or the year before and then last year with a couple of those songs, absolutely incredible change of pace, and I love where they're going, and I also love the direction you guys are going.
It helps to have a good team, like you mentioned, Jeff Cannon, who did the full length record that will come out. Believe me, I'm just as anti as everybody else is about putting it out in the world. But Jeff did a fantastic job producing and steering us in a good direction while we were recording. And then on the 2 singles that are going to be coming out, we worked with Shane Stanton directly on those. Same kind of thing, he picked out what he wanted from us and gave us good, solid direction to take what we had and just elevate it up. So it's not the 3 of us, doing all the work. There's Jeff and Shane are definitely helping out and being a big part of it. And it's very humbling to have such good support around us.
Yeah, I can attest to that in my own project with having Taylor and Ted being a part of our project and helping the songs grow. We have 2 new singles getting set to come out later this year as well. And I just actually got the third mix back for Right Side of the Wrong, which has a new name, by the way. No, it's only changed once. It's now through Bloodshot Eyes. So we finally made it fit with the part that everybody remembers.
That helps out.
Yeah. So, but we got that one back today, and it's like almost there. There's like little tweaks, but it's almost ready to go to mastering. So, definitely excited. What?
I just love that process of going from the demos to tracking it for real, getting a rough that day at the end of the session, and then just the anticipation of like getting that first polished mix back. That's so exciting. And then just getting into the nitty gritty, checking all the details before it goes off to mastering. I love that process so much.
And I think that's one of the things I like as much as playing live is like the anticipation of getting those fresh mixes back and listening to this little slight intricacies that change from mix to mix and how much the song grows through a mix. That's one of those things I don't think a lot of people appreciate. And even some musicians I know don't really appreciate the process of a good mix, like a really good, strong mix.
Of course, a mix is only going to be as good as the material that's presented in the tracks that are presented. If those are tracked well, then they're off to a good start. But it's pretty amazing when you've got great stuff going in and it sounds great dry. Just where it can go with a skilled engineer. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, I can attest to that for sure with the work we did, and then the work I have now with this current project has been great to work with really strong engineers. You and I have both been lucky enough to work with Taylor Hahn and with the guys at the Keep, and they both have their strengths, which I think is really important. Would you say for any up and coming artist, it's important to find a quality engineer that can help be an extra ear as well as someone who can help engineer and make the record clean, I guess?
Just thinking back here, let's see, Red Tide recorded its first record, I think my senior year of high school, so around 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, with Michael Morrissey. Taylor Hahn was his intern at the time. That's how we got introduced to Taylor. And then shortly after that, a couple of years later, when we were working on the Inferno EP, we did that with Roger, and then it ended up being Taylor mostly. And that was the first time where we really got sat down by Taylor, and he gave us some pretty needed advice to, hey, shut up and listen. You're not always right about everything kind of stuff. And, I think that's important because a lot of up and coming bands, well, I shouldn't say a lot of up and coming bands, but if you're starting out and you're younger, you probably you're a little more headstrong with, what you think is right and wrong. with your music. And, fair point, you should be. It's your art, but definitely don't pass up the great opportunity when you're working with somebody as professional as Taylor or Jeff or Shane. Take their advice because they've been in it. They know what to do. They've recorded bands that, they've recorded bands that are at the top of their level, and they've recorded bands that are just beginning. So they know exactly what it takes to get to where you want. Listen to the advice. It's priceless,
Definitely. And that's one of those things that, like, I think I learned a lot by being in Red Tide. And I mean, working with all the bands that I've been in like 95 bands since I was 18. And that's my own fault. But that's one of those things that, like, when you learn about a quality engineer or quality mixer or great master, your effort comes out and through their work as well, in my opinion, at least, that, like, if you're willing to work with them, your sound tends to come out better because you're listening to what's being asked of you, as opposed to just doing whatever you want to do.
Exactly. And they know their strengths going in. And they probably, if they've done their job well, they've assessed your band ahead of time, either with some pre-production or they've listened to previous songs that you've already put out or demos that you've sent to them. So they know where your strengths are at. And then if you two can just play off of each other's strengths, that's just going to make, the end product that much better. And that's what it's all about. It's a team effort at that point, not, we hired this guy to record us. And, unless you're a tool, like listen to what he's got to say, because in the end, it's more than likely going to end up making the song or the album that much better. And, you're going to be that much better of a band for it.
Definitely. I want to change gears real quick. So we're recording this on August 3rd. August 2nd was the greatest day in sports history.
Okay, let's just say this. August 2nd was, man, that was a treat. I've not been disappointed by August 1st either, dude. These first 2 days of playoffs, and even what we got going today, like I'm taking a break from Jets and Flames are currently playing, and so are Caps and Lightning. But man, Colorado, out of nowhere. I mean, I was fully expecting, like, cool, we're gonna go into OT. We'll just battle out. Matthew and I were talking. We were hoping it was gonna go to a shootout. Why not? Even if cool, we got a shootout hockey game in August. That never happens.
No.
Never going to happen ever again, hopefully. But man, dude, I saw it go in. I saw they were reviewing it, like that frame that they had where it still said 0.1, and there was a little blur of the puck still that looked like it was right on the line, like might be dicey, and I'm glad they gave it to him, man. That was incredible. Did you see the photo they put up of Nas there when it went in?
Yeah, the goal camera photo.
Dude.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the NHL playoffs just started again, and they're doing a round robin tournament as well as a qualifying tournament to lock in the places for all the teams. And Andrew and I, being Colorado Avalanche fans, both of us growing up in the Denver metro area, last night the game-winning goal was literally scored with 0.1 seconds left on the clock on an insane power play. And yeah, that's all you need to know. If you can find it on YouTube, watch it. Like, the goal itself was absolutely incredible. But leading up to that, man, like, you and I have definitely bonded over the last few years over the love of the game of hockey. And how exciting is it to have it back in your mind? And also, what do you think about this bubble process and the playoff format that we have right now? And what do you think we're going to have for the start of next season?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I can say that I have not ever been more excited for hockey in my life, ever. I mean, obviously, hockey's always been a big thing for me. COVID shutting it down, and especially in a year where our boys are really looking good to win the cup. Like, they have a legitimate chance to wreck this year. It was disappointing. So I'm glad that they put a program in place where they can actually pull this off and award the cup still, and the team is healthy which is fantastic. I think the NHL has done a great job with this. The two hub cities look fantastic. It's a bit weird, sure, to see it without a crowd and to get the artificial noise. And some broadcasts have had the crowd noise at what seems like a normal level, and others have been like dead quiet. Those are kind of cool though, because you can hear the chirps on the ice a little bit better. But I think they've done a great job. It looks better than the other sports. The MLB's kind of weirded me out with those massive cardboard cutouts right behind home. And I've only seen the one NBA game. It looked like there was just a bunch of Zoom meeting fans, like 2 layers of Zoom meeting fans, and then just black abyss above them. So I like the presentation that the NHL put together. The screens look great. It doesn't seem to be distracting anybody and causing any of the plays to, kind of go haywire or anything like that. And honestly, the play looks competitive and like the postseason hockey that we're typically used to. Peter McNabb, I thought, made a great point on his broadcast yesterday during the game that normally in the postseason, as the rounds go on, the quality of hockey deteriorates just from the fatigue, and obviously they're playing at a much higher level than they would during the regular season. This year, he suspects that the quality of play is actually going to increase as we go round to round. So that's, as a fan, that's awesome because, it's already looking like the Jets Flame series, they're flying already.
Yeah. The other side of that too is, I don't know if you heard P. Belmar's comments about it, that this asterisk, if there is one, should be the biggest and most important one, because the difference between this and any other is they completely stopped. They had to restart. Everybody's healthy, and you are going up against guys that are going to be at their peak level in the semifinals, conference finals, and the Stanley Cup final. So you're playing the teams at their best paces.
Yep. And another point, if one of the top 4 teams in either conference ends up not winning the cup, the team that won had to win 19 games instead of 16. That's brutal, you know? So absolutely, whoever wins the cup this year absolutely deserves it. I'm excited just with what we've seen so far, man. The Montreal Canadiens upsetting the Penguins in the first game. Are you kidding me?
Oh man, I have some friends out in Boston right now who don't believe that hockey has restarted after that Flyers game on the first.
Hasn't started because they've been absent for 2 games now. That exhibition game and that game they had against the Flyers yesterday in round robin was they had their moments, but man, Boston's looking a little sluggish compared to everybody else.
I would have to agree with that. I think it's a little bit of the age factor. They're one of the older teams in this series. One of the other crazy stats that I saw last night is I think there's 88 players in the entire tournament who have 0 NHL playoff experience.
There's a lot of young guys in there. Chicago's in this group this year, and they weren't even supposed to be in it. They upset the Oilers in that first game. We'll see how they do tonight. But yeah, their core is really young. I think the average age on that team's like 25 or so.
With Kane and Taves, that's ridiculous to think about. And Seabrook and Keith.
So, and it's cool because they're getting a lot of experience that they normally wouldn't. Especially some of the rookies this year. And I know Kabalik's a little older, but for his rookie season, I mean, that's like 5 points in that first game. That's ridiculous. Unreal.
And you're looking at, to switch back to the Avalanche, you're looking at a potential of seeing Timmins and maybe Bo Byram, depending on what happens in this playoff stretch as well. I'm sorry, why is it even a question? You have Cale Calder McCarr on your roster. Right. Kid hasn't missed a beat. Ridiculous.
He's up there. He's jumping into plays. He's causing mayhem. I was especially impressed yesterday. He had a shift where he took a shot. I believe it got blocked by a blue, and he was immediately back covering and poke checks it away.
And then reset the play for the offense, which was awesome.
It's incredible. That kid's unreal. His hockey sense is unlike anyone else his age, and he's only going to get better still.
One of the other things I was seeing through the threads that I was looking at, Kadri scores that game winner. He's been suspended for the last 2 playoff series. Do you think the change of environment for him is the reason why he's going to make it through all the way and, get to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup as a member of the Avalanche?
I think so. I don't follow the Maple Leafs as close, really. I just like to make fun of them because it's fun. And let's see, he was coached under Babcock those years, right?
Yeah, there was a couple years he was under Babcock.
Those 2 years that he's been suspended, that was Babcock regime. Yeah, I think just the change in environment. He's around a solid group of really talented players that helps, it feeds to his strengths. It doesn't seem like he has any attitude problems with the guys. He's ultra competitive. That's what this team's about this year. Nobody's hungrier for this cup than Nathan McKinnon.
No
one is. And I think Bednar does a really good job coaching to their strengths. So I don't see it's all speculation from the fan, of course, but I don't see that there's any problems between Kadri and Bednar either. So I just think there's a lot of things going for Kadri that's going to probably keep him more level-headed. Now, I'm not going to say he's not going to be aggressive because that's part of his game. You saw how he stuck up for Don Scoy when he got taken out. So he's definitely a game changer for us. He's definitely going to contribute. He already has, even though the round robin isn't as important as the best of 7 series once we get going here. But if they can take what he's already given to us, and just keep building on it game to game, we're going to look pretty tough in that first round.
You actually bleed into the next part I have. You look at guys like Jonas Donskoy, Andre Burakovsky, and Valery Nikushkin, who are all essentially left for dead by their franchises. The Sharks choose to re-sign Timo Meier and let Donskoy go to the Avalanche. You get Burakovsky for nothing. You essentially get him for a 4th-round pick with the intent to potentially re-sign him for an extension. You get Valery Nikushkin at a veteran minimum in a signing right before the season starts. All 3 of these players contribute to the position this team is in now. Is Joe Sakic God? What is going on?
Joe Sakic is my God. Dallas is hurting for giving up Nichushkin for so cheap, man. I mean, they didn't know what they had, honestly, because he hasn't quite gotten back to form in the 2 games that I've seen yet. But I do think by the time we get to that first round, he's going to be 95% where he was at towards the end of the season there, where he was just ripping and tearing on everybody. I just think Joe Sakic being on a championship team twice knows what it takes. He sees the characteristics that players need to have. He sees the chemistry that they need to have with each other to form a tight-knit bond. So I think he's able to see that, acknowledge it, and get the guys that he needs so that the group can definitely achieve.
Who are your Stanley Cup picks? Who's going to be in the East? I already know who you're picking for the West, so it doesn't.
Hell yeah. I would love to see it either be the Avalanche against the Flyers or the Capitals.
Those would both be fun series. I personally want to see the Flyers and the Avalanche because I think they've been the 2 best teams in the NHL since day one. And I think to see like Hart against Grubauer and Francouz, McKinnon against Voracek, the storylines write themselves for those 2 teams. And the way that they've all played, it is absolutely insane. And I think that would be the best Stanley Cup. And I honestly think it would probably go 7.
Oh, it would totally go 7. Go an OT on that 7th game. I hope it was one of those.
Oh, God. I got heartburn just thinking about it.
Yeah, man. Philly, their game against the Penguins, man, they embarrassed the Penguins in that exhibition game. And obviously they stuck it to the Bruins too yesterday on the 2nd for whenever this podcast is out. So, they look like they're where they left off before the break, where they were the hottest team in the league, winning 9 out of the last 10 games that they had. They were making a really big push on the Capitals for the division. So yeah, I think they're going to be a force to be dealt with in the East there, and it would not surprise me at all if I see them in the Cup final against our Avs.
So change gears back towards the music side of things. Let's talk a little bit more about the business side of music. There's been a lot of changes over the last decade or so in terms of how music is distributed. There was an article released recently about the CEO of Spotify making some very unpleasant statements about the state of music. Yeah, it was very bold of him, especially considering his platform is as big as it is, but it's not the only one. So what do you think about the comments of you can't release an album every 3 or 4 years and expect to remain relevant?
I don't agree with that because touring has a lot to do with it. And unfortunately for bands these days, because record sales don't pay and streams definitely don't pay, your money comes from being able to go and tour and sell merchandise and get a guarantee and promote that way. And unfortunately, touring takes up, as you know, a lot of time. We've been fortunate enough to go on a couple of runs. The Drowning Pool run was 6 weeks. Seven Dust was about 3 weeks. That was a shorter one. I've been on a couple other longer tours, anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks at a time. The bands don't just do one run on an album. When I was crewing for Drowning Pool, for instance, when they released Hallelujah, there were 3 tours on that record cycle that I was a part of. There were several others that I wasn't on overseas, and I did the USO portion, which was nice, but that takes time. So sure, you can say release a record every year, but when you're going to write it, when you're on the road, you know how difficult it is, especially if you're a young band where, you're not priority in the venue and you get sound check last and you're playing and then you're at your merch booth trying to sell so you can get some gas money to get to the next place. You either don't have time to write or you're too exhausted to sit down and get creative. So, you need that dedicated time to sit down and write, and that, unfortunately, at least for me and the way I operate, I separate that from touring. Touring is tour, writing is writing. If you're going to be serious and actually try and make money and a career out of this, a lot of your time is going to be devoted to touring so that you can make up for the lack of record sales and the stream payout.
Well, and then you have to look at also, you're trying to peddle your merch, like you mentioned, at the same time, which also raises costs. You're paying to get on a lot of these tours, which a lot of people who are starting bands don't really realize is part of the deal. If you want to get on some of these bigger name tours or be with bands that have that recognition, you're going to have to pay out.
Yeah, if you don't have some serious clout going on, or a single at radio, or you're not super tight buddies with whoever the headliner is, there's a cost to touring. Most of the time it's reasonable, but it's still a cost. And that factors in on top of having to pay to produce merchandise and your CD and fuel and lodging and food and all the other expenses that come with touring before you even make a freaking dollar. So, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of money being spent. It's worth it for sure. Even if you break even, I think it's worth it, just because you go out and you meet fans, you build your fan base, which is super important. And then hopefully the next time you go out, it gets better. And that's, just like in hockey, you're building on the successes of the previous game. You build on the success of the last tour. Know what you did right, know what you did wrong. You and I were very fortunate in that first Drowning Pool run that we did, that we had Greg Red out.
Oh, yeah.
Because that dude got us in line and showed us exactly the amount of work ethic that it takes to pull something off and be successful with it. And, that's, again, it goes back to the conversation we had about having a good recording engineer and producer and listening to them. The same applies to live, if not even more, because you live or die by the road.
I saw a few posts in a community chat I'm in on Facebook that kind of criticized people for bringing their own sound people to specific venues. I'm guilty of this. Andrew has helped us out in Gunpowder Empire by doing a few shows. Luckily, he's one of the house engineers at a venue here in Denver that we play at more than anything, so that kind of helps. But we've brought you to venues before, and it's because you know what we sound like and you know what we do, and that's something that I don't think a lot of musicians understand. They just assume that a house guy should know what they sound like and should know what their mix is. What is the biggest piece of advice you can give to a small band who's like a local band, for instance, who can, like, what advice would you give them to give front of house engineers to help them sound better?
Well, there's plenty that you can do. The one thing that I always enjoy seeing, whether it's an email or when they show up right at the, when they go to load in, if you have a dedicated input list and some kind of rough monitor mix that you're expecting, especially if it's at a venue like Herman's, where as the front of house engineer, I'm also mixing the monitors for the band. So that helps save time and hopefully some, heartache up on stage, so you can be able to hear what you want to hear right away. That's a massive help. But then also just listen to what the front of house engineer needs from you, because it's a give and take kind of situation where, guitarists are pretty guilty of this. I was guilty at one point myself, where, you have your tone dialed in, you think it's good, and then it's shit. Listen to that engineer if he tells you, hey man, boost your mids up, because he's not, even though it might sound weird to you on stage or what you're not used to from, rehearsing all the time with that specific tone, what it's doing for the front of house engineer is helping your guitar cut out in the mix better. That way they can actually hear you out front and it doesn't just sound like a wash of noise drums, So you just listen to what the engineers have to say. Be professional. Don't get lippy with them, because they ultimately want the best sounding show for you as well, because we don't want the crowd turning around and looking at us, getting all pissed off, blaming us for something, we want you to sound just as good as you want you to sound. It's just, you got to calm down sometimes, with the fighting back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of those things I think not a lot of artists understand, is that the sound engineer is not out there to destroy your day. They get the satisfaction of it sounding good too. And that's the important part I think a lot of bands need to look at nowadays, is like, once we get back to playing live again, which will hopefully be in the near-ish future. And I mean, it's tough to say right now. But I think that's something that we as musicians have grown to respect, is working with a sound engineer like Greg really taught, even though he and I butted heads a couple times. It was one of those things that I learned the amount of effort and work that goes into setting up a show, taking a show down, and engineering a show. We learned that there's, one mistake, one missed patch, one misplaced line, one dead channel can change an entire show. And it seems so insignificant, but it's super massive.
It's all important. And the common person, the common band that's just starting out doesn't understand everything that goes into it. And once you do, then you sort of understand why people bring in their own guy and why they have their own crews and insist on their own stuff. And I feel like as long as you approach that with a professional manner, for instance, at Herman's again, like, I'm the house engineer. If it's one of the bigger bands, or even if it's a local band and they just have their own guy and they want to use the board, as long as they're cool to me and professional and their guy seems like he knows halfway what he's doing, I'm obviously going to sit and babysit, and make sure he doesn't blow up anything. But as long as you're professional and go about it the right way, it's not an issue. Everybody's on the same team still. Everybody just wants the best show. Venue wants the best show. Promoters want the best show. The bartenders want the best show, because if it's sounding good and people are digging it, they're probably drinking some more, and that's win-win for everybody.
What would you say is the biggest piece of advice you could give any band ever to grow their brand and get to, Red Tide's at a level that's a little bit different. Anti-Saint now. Sorry, I got to get used to that.
Just do it too. Don't worry.
What is one of those things that you would give like an up and coming band, the biggest piece of advice you could give them about trying to make it in this industry?
Always have your ears open. Not only for sounds and different techniques, and I don't want to say trends, because right on trends, then it's not true to yourself unless you really connect with that trend. But not only the music side of it, but just the banter going on, things that you might not necessarily have picked up if you weren't just trying to soak everything in. And that's, that's from tour. That's from listening to other tech people, other sound engineers, other band members, just what they're talking about, what they're focusing on. And you really start to see what separates the big bands from somebody who's maybe not taking it as serious yet. There's just a different mentality behind it. There's a different approach to it. There's a different concentration on the details that could be easily overlooked, but is more important than it seems.
I couldn't agree more. The piece I would give too is, don't think that because you've established your sound with the first song you write, that's going to be the sound you have to write with for the rest of your career. Grow with what you want to do. And if you write for yourself, the people will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Because if you, if you say, I want to sound like band X, Y, and Z, and painfully stick to that, where, you're compromising the art just to fit in with what you think you should be doing, instead of just naturally letting it develop. And, you can start with band X, Y, and Z and then see where that goes to. Because that's how every band starts. They have their influences, but, I'm a big AC/DC fan. We don't sound like AC/DC.
No.
Definitely some techniques and some tricks I've learned from them that I apply to our music. And, that's where you got to sit down and figure out what you want to do, and also just naturally let it happen. And that helps with also having great players around you that, have been there and done that, and help you steer yourself into the right direction for your band.
I agree. I want to end this interview with a story.
Oh boy.
I talked to Lindsay Manfredi of Cold. That episode will be out on August 7th. I told her the Pasquini story.
Oh.
So I want you to tell that story from your perspective. When I said no, you guys got me pizza, and I said no.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Well, okay. Before I elaborate on this, I must say that Cold played at Herman's last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the best sets I've ever heard. Band was tight, and their front of house engineer was a fucking wizard. Yeah, I mean, Herman's, they're doing some upgrades right now. It looks incredible in there. For a while, we had two subwoofers, one on stage left and right. I think we're adding a third one in the middle.
Nice.
Dead zone of bass for me. That show, man, was just fucking bass to your soul, no matter what part of the venue you were in. So I was like, man, I want to steal your scene, dog. That shit's But yeah, okay, yeah. So Mike comes and we ask him to hang out and play and get a little vibe going and see if he's gonna fit as our bass player. And he was cool and all, and he's playing, and we go out for pizza after we're done. Go and get some Pasquinis and hanging out, reflecting on the set, just getting to know each other a little bit. Seems like we're going good. Don't worry about paying for it, Mike. We got you, dog. And then the next day, formally asking. No, it probably wasn't the next day, but when we formally ask him, you can be in red ties. Nah, man, I can't do it. Dog, we bought you pizza, man. You gonna play us like that? You so cold, deny us the pizza?
Oh, yeah. And then
I'm sure you're happy about that.
Yeah. To be fair, you did, like, after we then shot the video for the other side, and we went down to Dallas, and the entire time Andrew's in my ear like, you're gonna be my bassist, dog.
Yep, you'll be the bassist. Yeah, that's right. Because you did a couple shows. We did that Dallas run as a test.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that went well, and we gave you the formal offering there. And nope.
But I'm glad I did, because I got to develop a great relationship with one of my favorite musicians and one of my closest friends. And yeah. Oh. And the best part is like, we, even after I left, we've maintained a good relationship. We've stayed close, and it's been a blast being able to share music with you, my current projects, other things that I've worked on, and then what you guys are doing with Anti-Saint. It's just, I'm super proud to be your friend, man. And so thank you.
Hey, man, I'm so proud to see what you guys are doing. You and Sean and Joey are freaking killing it, man, with the Gunpowder Empire going on. Had a pleasure mixing for you as well. That's been really fun, especially that show at Moe's was really fun for whatever reason, man. It was, like you go in with I'm used to the big sound system of Herman's. Moe's is considerably smaller, so making that thing still sound huge, that was nice. And I mean, y'all gave me great inputs to work with, so it makes the job easy.
Yeah, man, that show was a lot of fun. It was weird because, like, we weren't even sure what to expect. I think you blew the sound engineer's mind that night, who works there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting working with a subwoofer that's hanging from the ceiling. That was challenge number one. But no, it's cool, and that's the other thing that's important to remember. And this took me, I'll admit, a while to really figure out and appreciate, is that there are some bands, and I was guilty of it at one point, going in that you think every band in Denver that's local is competition. And you go in with a certain mentality and a certain attitude because of that. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. Bands are out there to support each other. They always have. You want to build a tight-knit group and a tight scene. That way you guys have more success with each other. And whether that's bands that are helping each other get shows together, bands reaching out to other bands that have members that do audio things like I do, you reach out to me, I'm more than happy to do that. Wake Me's done that too. I've mixed them a couple times. It's been fantastic. So don't go in, thinking that, just because you're playing this bill with a larger local band or a smaller local band, that you need to, treat them a certain way or act a certain way and assert your dominance over them or some shit like that. It's all bullshit. Just work together, because a healthy music scene benefits everybody: the bands, the fans, the venues, especially with having this time off of not being able to play, and unfortunately seeing some venues go down. It's important, once things get going again, that we got to stick out for each other and make sure that everybody's feeling support that they're rightfully due.
I'm also excited to see what HQ turns out to be. What used to be Three Kings. I think the guys at Anchors Away are going to do a phenomenal fucking job with that place. I can't wait.
It wasn't too far off from being awesome. The sound system in there was great. I think they were still running an analog console. That could be an upgrade, number one. But yeah, it's going to be. I'm glad that it's not just going to be foreclosed or whatever and become something new. I'm so glad it's going to serve as a music venue. Haven't heard what's going on with Hodie's Half Note. Have you?
Not yet. There have been some swirlings that Soda Jerk may do something with it again, but I don't know. I'm sad. I played there quite a few times in Fort Collins, and that's a perfect spot too. Anybody who picks that place up will have great opportunity.
That's a great spot for anybody that's starting out and beginning their music career, because it's not big, but it's not small. It's a great sized room. The stage is nice. It attracts bigger band names that will help draw a crowd. So hopefully, if you can play first or second on that show, that just helps build the natural fan base too. It's a fantastic spot, and it's definitely a big loss at this moment if it ends up not being able to reopen. But hopefully, you're right with the rumors that you've heard circling it.
Yeah, it's one of those places too. It's in the heart of one of the biggest college towns in Colorado, in Fort Collins, and it's the halfway point between Casper and Denver. So a quick little weekender run, you'd hit Hody's, and then I think it's the Cowboy Lounge in Casper, and then back.
Yeah, it's a great spot. We're not far off from Casper and Cheyenne. You could, a band could do a little Springs, Denver, Fort Collins, Cheyenne run. That's 4 days. That's a great weekend right there of gigging.
Yeah.
Definitely want to have those spots along that.
Well, man, unfortunately, we got to wrap up because my lovely girlfriend has an actual work call that she needs to get on here in a minute. She's giving me that shit. What?
This is more important.
Yeah. Throw down all you guys' social medias and everything. I'll have them linked in the description below, but let's hear it from you.
Yeah. I'll just converting everything over. So Instagram at ANTISAINT Band, Facebook.com/ANTISAINT Band, Twitter at ANTISAINT Band.
Yeah, I'm already following you guys.
And that's about it. Oh, there's a Bandcamp too. Just search us on Bandcamp, ANTISAINT.
Okay. And what about you? I know people want to follow you and see what you're doing.
Follow me. And I don't know what my new handle is going to be. I haven't updated it yet.
Okay.
Probably still going to be RTR Andrew for now.
Yeah. So just look up RTR Andrew. You can find him on mine. I'll post him and spam the crap out of him.
I changed to ANTISAINT Andrew.
That actually sounds kind of cool. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, dude. We'll actually have to get together here soon. I know we have some board games to play and some stuff to talk about.
Yep.
Got
the playoff hockey to watch.
Yeah, and some playoff hockey to watch. I'm in quarantine right now because my sister just had a baby, and I want to go meet my niece. So I'm excited. Yeah,
Nice.
man, she's cute.
Congrats, Uncle Mike.
Thank you. It's weird. It feels strange.
I'm never going to call you Uncle Mike again.
Please don't. All right, brother. Thank you so much, man. Have a good one. Peace.
It almost feels like someone else is living my life. 'Cause it almost feels like someone else is